boogeyman is real, and you found him.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm your number one fan.
I like to dissect girls. Did you know I'm utterly insane?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
7 days.
I am Dracula.
We have such sights to show you. Boy!
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
I am the eater of worlds and of children.
What's in the fucking box?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
One by one, we will take you.
Never get out of bed again!
You gotta be fucking kidding.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
Welcome, horror fans. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, home of the lesser-known 8th and 10th plans from outer space. And if you, dear horror fanatic, are listening to us at the top of the week, remember we do this live every preceding Wednesday right here on YouTube. So we hope to see you in the live chat. Come join us, as the Deadites say. This week, we're looking back at select horror films released April 28th through May 5th. Thank you all so much for joining us for what will surely be a bloody good time. I am your host, JL, and I hope you all are having a fantastic evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's see. So much stuff to talk about tonight. I hope everybody is doing fantastic. But first, before we do anything, we have to make sure that that Patreon banner is up. So we say a huge, giant thank you to all of the incredible members who make this show possible. All those people down there, all those names you see scrolling by on that little banner. You know, we give them shout outs here on the show and we thank them because without that Patreon support, you know, Patreon, YouTube, it all comes together. But those Patreon members, they really help to make this show possible. Not to mention all the stuff we have going on in the background. So it's amazing. And we thank you all so very much. So if you're not a member of our Patreon and you're interested or you're curious, check it out. Link is in the description. You can see how you can support us and do all kinds of cool stuff and get your name attached to some of the cool things that we do behind the scenes. So thank you very much for checking that out if you do. Who do we have in the live chat tonight? I see we've got Raven Darkstar is first in here. Says, hey, hi, hello. Good to see you, Raven. Thanks so much for being here tonight, as well as Casey Cooper. Good to see you. And I see a bunch of members of the Army of the Dead as well. Those are our YouTube channel memberships, so you can join our channel membership team or the Army of the Dead. Get access to all the cool emojis that we make for you and all kinds of cool stuff. So we appreciate you. Thank you very, very much for all you channel members. Thank you, Casey Cooper. Well met to you. As well as Turing Test 2 says, hi all. Good to see you, Turing Test 2. Appreciate you hanging out. Travis Brown is here, says, evening, y'all. Just watched Late Night with the Devil last Friday, and while it did have a slow pace, I like the tribute to the 70s late night shows, and shit gets real later in the film. It absolutely does. Fantastic fucking movie. Plus, David S. Malkian, loved him in virtually everything. You know, he's fantastic. Even in Boogeyman, when he had like that little, it was like that tiny little scene where he comes in and he pretty much is just like the plot. He's the exposition jeep. He comes in, drops the exposition that the lead characters need to know, and then is out. So even a small role like that, he always gives 100%. So I'm a huge fan of him. And late, if you haven't seen Late Night with the Devil, definitely go check it out. Like as soon as this show is over, go watch Late Night with the Devil. It's amazing. So good. All right, let's see who we got. Who else do we have here hanging out with us tonight? I see Aaron Reese is hanging out there in the chat. Good to see you, Aaron. Appreciate you hanging out. I hope The Office is coming along. I really hope that's going to be. I think it's going to look amazing when you're done. So hopefully your premiere will either be on your channel or it'll be here with us. So I can't wait to see you when you debut it. I think it'll be amazing. And Travis, I'm pretty sure that Alex does still have his He-Man hair. Although I haven't seen it, but he's not one to quit on something just because it gets a little old, you know. Let me see. NA is here. Says NA says, I didn't get a notification today. Very weird. That's odd. Very, very strange. Let me see something real quick. Well, okay, so it went out to Discord and everything, so I see the deal there. So I don't know what happened there. It's YouTube. You know, YouTube is like the bane of our existence. It really, really is. Wants to throw us in the hole, and then we have to climb out. So let's see. Joshua Lee's here. Good to see you, Joshua Lee. Thanks so much for hanging out tonight. as well as a huge giant thank you to Sarcasm, who has just become a member of the Army of the Dead. Thank you so much, Sarcasm. Appreciate that. NA, who gifted 10 memberships to the Army of the Dead. Thank you so much, NA, as well as Left-Handed Jedi, who gifted 10 memberships to the Army of the Dead. Thank you very, very much. You guys rock. Thank you. Very, very generous of y'all. And good to see you, Left-Handed Jedi. Appreciate you being here. Wrote it no last name. Gabba Gabba 2 says, "Bye, happy happenstance. Today is my birthday. Congratulations. And I believe you have something coming in the mail here pretty soon, if it has not already arrived. So let me know. But happy birthday to you, good sir." Let's see. Who else do we have tonight? Yes, Joshua Lee, we do have an MST3 Classic tonight. Unfortunately, we are not MST3K, so it was rough. I'll just say that. But we're gonna get into that. For those who may not be familiar with such an old film, or if you haven't watched MST3K and seen the send up of Coleman's films, but we're gonna talk a little bit about it. I promise we're gonna get into it. So but wow, rough. They did. Really, you need the MST3K to make it watchable, to be perfectly honest. But we'll get into that, I promise you. Let's see. Who else do we have? Ida Pimp Udaho is here. Says, "Hi, JL. Good to see you." Good to see you, Ida. Operation Free World as well. Says, "Hey, JL. We made it this time." Yes, you did. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it. Armageddon's Fire is hanging out. Good to see you. Says, "Good day, all." Thank you so much for being here. As well as Tang Whistle CPM. Good to see you, Tang. Appreciate you. And I see Historical Philosophers here. Good to see you, bud. Thank you much for being here. Ivy Gentry is here. Says, hey, I'm here just cooking up a feast. Fantastic. Dinner and Week in Horror. I can't think of anything better. I really can't. Unless you throw in a horror movie. Dinner and a horror movie is pretty badass too. But thank you so much for being here, bud. Aaron Reese says, MST3K is just candy-coated turds. That's sad. MST3K is amazing. Although some of the things they talk about are in fact turds. But it is how I discovered Monos the Hands of Fate, and has arguably what I think is the best line in all of MST3K history was in Mono's Hands of Fate, when the big wide reveal of the chamber, and you see the giant hands on the I guess the banners or something that are hanging down, and there's the big hands there, and Crow's like, "I wish those big hands would just push him over." That shit was funny. That shit was funny as hell. Oh, it's either Crow or Tom Servo. I think it might have been Tom. It might have been Tom Servo. Or no, maybe it was. Oh crap! I've forgotten his name. Tom Servo, Crow, and starts with a J. What the hell? Wow. I'm embarrassed for myself. I can't remember. I can't remember the host's name. Remind me of the host's name. It was one of them said that I wish those big hands would just push him over. This is my favorite friggin' line. That line cracked me up. I had to actually pause it. Joel, thank you. Fuck. Thank you, Joshua Lee. And I think it might have been Joel. Fuck, it was one of them. But that line cracked me up. I had to pause it. I had to be like, and just finish laughing. But yeah, that shit. Those guys are hilarious. Riff Tracks is also quite good. Historical Philosopher says, Week in Horror, question, have you ever covered The Wraith, or is that more sci-fi than horror? We have not had the opportunity to cover The Wraith yet. I'd consider it a horror film, a horror sci-fi film, but we haven't had the opportunity to cover it just yet. As a matter of fact, since you asked that question, I'm actually kind of curious about something. Since you asked that, let me do this, because all kinds of stuff here, like the home base of Week in Horror. If I go here and I look up, if we were to cover The Wraith, oh goodness, maybe we I don't know. No, we haven't covered it yet. But if we did, because that film was 1986, so I think that was in November. So yeah, that would be a winter coverage. We'd cover that in the winter. So yeah, so if we were going to cover it, if we were going to cover it, we would cover it it would have to be like in a season 6. So it was awesome. Oh, for those who don't know, it's interesting that you bring up The Wraith, because this is so fascinating. It's interesting that you bring up The Wraith, HP, because the latest Week in Horror front row, for those who are patrons, you guys know who we sat down and chat with, because we send that out so you guys can ask them questions and do stuff like that. But we sat down with an actor who did a film that was pretty much put together and starring much of the cast and the crew from the Wraith. Those guys all got together and made another film, and he was in that movie. So with Clint Howard and several others. So, but it's interesting you bring that up because we just had a conversation about that. What was it on freaking on Saturday? You just had a conversation about that on Saturday, and it was an awesome chat. So if you're looking forward to the early release of that, sit down for our front row series, that's going to be for all of you patrons at the top of the month. You get to check that out early. So, but we'd have to. It would come out. The release date was in November, so we would check it out then. We would run it down then. Oh, let's see. Who else do we have in the chat tonight? I think I almost got everybody. Cindy Johnson's here. Good to see you. Good evening to you. And holy shit, Flat Derp is in the house. Says, what up, JL? Good to see you, Flat Derp. Thank you so much for being here, bud. Appreciate you popping in and saying hi. Really do. Operation Free World says, exactly 6 months till the Terrifier 3 release. Let us pray for promo merch in the theaters. Hell yes. Apparently there's a push to get a custom popcorn bucket of Art's head, that either comes off or is open like this. But yeah. I think that would be cool as shit. Go right along with my defiled Dune 2 bucket. Travis Brown says, what is for Patreon, JL? So our Patreon subscribers get early access to our additional content. So like our front row series, where we bring on industry professionals, actors, writers, directors, special effects artists, people that work professionally in the industry, and we bring them in and sit them down for like a kind of like a free form kind of just chat about their careers and their inspirations and goals and stuff they've worked on and behind the scenes stuff and all kinds of cool stuff. It's not really like a formal interview. It's just kind of like, let's meet the people who make this genre amazing. And our patrons get early access to that at the top of every single month. So we do it. So we'll do the sit down in the front row during the month, and then at the top of the next month. So like on May 1st, all of you patrons out there will get early access to the front row series. And then about midway through the month, it goes out to YouTube. And then after that, it goes out to Spotify to everybody else. So, but patrons get that early access to the cool people that we get to talk to. So a lot of really good stuff. Really, really good things. Let's see. I think I got everybody here. See everyone. Fantastic. I'll make sure I didn't miss anybody. I don't think I did, but if I did, I apologize. Patrons also get 80% off JL's OnlyFans. Oh, that's just a horror show in and of itself. It really, really is. JL missed my remark. You think I can't go back and find your remark, Raven? I see that you said you loved the car and the Wraith. The car and the Wraith was amazing. Personally, of the three evil cars, even though technically the Wraith is more of a revenge film, but of the three cars, you've got the car, you've got the Wraith, and you've got technically the car wasn't the Wraith, but you got the car with James Brolin. Then you've got the Wraith with Charlie Sheen. And then you've got freaking Christine. So we actually did a bloodbath debate years ago that was the car versus Christine to see who would win. Now we didn't do the Wraith because the Wraith is more of a revenge film, and plus that car needs a driver. So there was always a driver with the car, whereas the car and Christine can both drive themselves. So they don't need a driver to operate them. So they were sentient vehicles is what they were. So that's why we did that one. Raven Darkstar is challenging me here. She's challenging me. JL, don't you dare hit that air horn twice tonight. I cannot make any promises. I can't promise. But I will do my best. I'll do my best to not hit the air horn twice tonight. Or 3 times. Or 4. No, I do. Typically we only try to hit it once, but I promise I'll do my best. Josh Lee says, what about the killer tire? That would be Robert the tire from the film Rubber. And Robert, we actually did a bloodbath debate with him as well. And it was Rubber versus Birdemic. It's because Robert had a habit of blowing up birds, of like using his psychic powers to blow up birds. And so we figured the birds that could I think they spit fire. Like they shot fireballs and shit. So we're like, what about Robert versus Birdemic? So we did that. So that was a lot of fun. Flat Derp says Maximum Overdrive, several killer vehicles. Oh fuck yes, several killer vehicles with the goblin, with the green goblin truck and everything. So, but yeah, there were so many in that one, and it was interesting. It's kind of like you want to do like Maximum Overdrive versus like Virus. because it's like a controlling force. So like in Maximum Overdrive, the energy wave like hit the planet and it made all the things sentient. Whereas in Virus, it was kind of the same thing. Like the energy wave, hit was grabbed by a satellite, and then it beamed down to the ship, and it turned all the machines to life. So it's kind of like in the same vein. Yeah, that would have been interesting. Virus versus Maximum Overdrive. That would have been a weird one. That would have been a seriously weird one. Omnioros Burrows is here. Good to see you, bud. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Yep, Goblin D's nuts. Absolutely. All right, and left-hand Jedi says the killdozer. Hell yes. Hell yes. Aaron Reed says the soda machine was the real menace in Maximum Overdrive. Damn, Nut Cruncher. That thing was brutal. That was brutal. And yes, Virus did make more sense than Maximum Overdrive, Travis. You are correct. And Andy says, Week in Horror, I have a movie in mind that I can't remember. Maybe sometime you can help me find the title on Discord. Give me what you got on it, and I'll try to, and maybe I've got it up here in the old cranium, or maybe I'll be able to find it for you, but I just need some details. Year of release, an actor that starred, obviously year of release actor starred in it, or maybe even some bits of the plot. I may be able to put it together. So, but yeah, let me know. Message me, or let me know. All right, well, since I'm running the show solo tonight, and means I got to pace everything out. You see that I'm trying to pace things out. But we have got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about tonight. Now, first and foremost, like we usually do, I like finding interesting things to talk about before we dive into tonight's selections. And we do have a few things. So, first and foremost, for all of you badass horror film, every single one of you badass horror fans out there, I was pleased to announce, I saw a post from Bloody Disgusting, which was an amazing thing. And it just kind of like made me giddy a little bit because one of the best horror films that we kind of like the gateway horror film that we kind of grew up with, The Gate, with a very, very young Stephen Dorff fighting little like goblin monsters because they like opened up a gate to hell like in their backyard when like the tree was removed. It was like a hole and it was like, oh, it's hell. And then the little demon goblin things come out. So The Gate is getting a Blu-ray Steelbook release. So a Blu-ray Steelbook release for The Gate, and that is coming out May 14th. May 14th, The Gate is getting a Blu-ray Steelbook release. So if that is some legitimate gateway horror right there. Stuff that we grew up with, like Poltergeist, going all, like all the original shit that we grew up with. So if you dig that, if you dug The Gate and you only have your DVD or you never got a copy of it, there's a Blu-ray Steelbook version re-release coming out May 14th. You can get your hands on that. And of course, I think you can pre-order it or you can just probably pick one up. But I think that one's going to be hot because a lot of us when we were young came across that one as a freaky ass movie because a little monster goblin thingies and the kids running around the house, they're trapped in there. So, you have the eye and the hand and the kid coming out of the closet and shit. So, but yeah, that was a crazy film, a lot of fun, and I know a lot of y'all loved it. So, but yes, if you are wanting to add to your collection, to your horror film collection, your physical collection, then definitely check that out. The Gate, May 14th, Blu-ray Steelbook release. It's gonna be cool as shit. Here's another thing that's got my attention, and I wish, it's when I come across shit like this that I wish my co-hosts were here with me. I really do. Oh, and hey, Angel Rivera, good to see you. Good to see you, Angel Rivera. And Flat Drip says, I love Stephen King's Cat's Eye when I was a kid. More gateway horror. Stephen King's Cat's Eye was gateway horror as well. That's one thing that we ran into, with Drew Barrymore and connecting the anthology, and who doesn't love that final one where it's the friggin' troll in the wall and like, oh, the cat versus the troll. It's fucking amazing. I have a surprise for y'all tonight. I really do. Fuck you, Aaron Reese. Is when are they doing the commemorative release of The Ninth Gate? They're not. Never, ever, ever. No, this undeserving to get a commemorative release. But this is something interesting. And I wish my co-hosts were around because this is something I would love to get their opinions on because this just popped up very, very recently. Thank you so much for dating me, Travis. The Storm of the Century is going to be 25 years old this year. Fuck, I am old. I mean, don't let the beard, give it away, but shit, I'm old. 25. I remember watching that when it aired. I remember my ex at the time, my ex had that on VHS. Wow. I think I own it on DVD. I think I've got it on DVD. I think 25 years. Fucking hell, I am old. I am old. Damn. John Monahan, good to see you, bud. Thanks so much for being here tonight. Appreciate you hanging out. In case Cooper says, hi, you're a kid, JL. I am totally a kid. I really am. I'm a child, at least up here. You know, undeveloped. Really, really undeveloped. Everybody's telling me I'm young. Yeah, I know. We have some well-seasoned fans there in the live chat. Some well-seasoned, finely aged, you know, like a good cheese. Oh, Cindy Sue, thank you so much, Cindy Sue. Says you're not old, Methuselah. Yeah, I know the beard might throw you off, though. You know, as white as it is. I promise this is the natural color. It really is. Josh Willie says unrelated. I really want them to do a re-release of the movie Dogma. I really do as well, but of course Kevin Smith has stated that because of he who will not be named, rotting in prison right now. It's because of him that they can't do a re-release yet. So hopefully one day we will get that. Yeah. All right, so I keep diverging off of this. So this is really, really fascinating. News came out that Lionsgate, yes, Lionsgate, that production company that always makes fantastic decisions, has decided to reboot the Blair Witch Project. So Lionsgate is partnering up with Blumhouse. So Blumhouse and Lionsgate are teaming up to do, I guess, a reboot of the Blair Witch Project. So other than we got like the first one, the legendary first one back in 1999, then we got the lackluster sequel that, despite the talented people that were in it, that movie sucked. But Jeffrey Donovan, I'm a huge Jeffrey Donovan fan. I'm a huge Kim Director fan, Erica Learson. So, but despite the very, very talented cast who did their best with what was probably one of the most god-awful scripts I've ever read. But despite all that, and of course the 2016 movie that came out, the 2016 Blair Witch, Lionsgate and Blumhouse are teaming up to bring back the Blair Witch Project. Now, that's not what I wanted to talk about. That's just that sets the stage. The interesting thing here, and I find this fascinating. What is this like? 99, 2009? Was it 25 years later since the Blair Witch Project? 1999, 25 years later. So it was 99, 2009, 2019. Yeah. 25 years later. So 25 years later, the original cast and crew and the directors, the original people involved in the original movie, all the original cast and crew. I think it's specifically it's Heather, Josh, and Mike. Heather, Josh, and Mike, and one of the directors have released a public statement asking for residuals and I guess credit for their roles in the original movie. So they announced this. Lionsgate and Blumhouse announced this, and then almost immediately, all the people that were involved in the original one dropped this public statement that they are basically looking for more. Now, and thank you so much, NANA, for the $6.66 Freedom Dollars. Appreciate that. The best super chat number. It says Blair Witch 2 was the first movie I walked out of. It was hard for me to not stay in that movie. It was. That was tough. That movie was tough to watch just because it was just so nonsensical and goofy, and the ending was just like, ugh. But I was such a big fan of the cast. I was a big fan of the cast. I thought they did really, really well with the work that they had, even though the script was fucking terrible, and the whole thing is just nonsensical and ridiculous. But they're professional. They did what they did. They did their best. So it doesn't look like they're suing them. Then it's not like Heather and the crew and everybody. Not like they're suing any, like Heather Donovan and everybody. They're not suing them. They've simply released a statement that they want more. That they're looking for more. And I guess they want recognition for the first one, for the first film, for their roles in the first one, and they want residuals off of the first one. Now, I understand the mentality there. The mentality being that this casting, that those two directors and the cast and crew of that first movie, it was very, very small, $60,000 production. They pretty much created a juggernaut that has persisted on for a quarter of a century. Multiple sequels, video game, comic books. It created a franchise. That one film hit like pretty much hit the public hard enough that it created a franchise. And they never really saw anything more from the success of the first film. They didn't have like percentages of the gross. They basically worked, if I understand, they basically worked for scale. They pretty much just did the job, and then you never know if a movie's going to explode like that. They pretty much just did their job, they got paid, and that was it. But then the movie exploded, and they never really saw anything after that. The only thing that they really got was the exposure. You know, all of a sudden Heather Donahue was over, and Heather was able to kind of finagle that into a couple other acting gigs. I think she had an appearance on The Outer Limits at the time, like the Outer Limits reboot, and she's done some other stuff, but their careers really didn't blow up. You know, now the directors have gone on to do other stuff, have gone on to direct other films. One of the directors, I can't remember which one, but he directed the movie Altered, which I really, really enjoyed. It's a really good alien abduction film, really, really gory alien abduction film, which I dug, plus a number of other films. They're not the equivalent of like the Vicious Brothers, who were really kicking ass and taking names, but, you know, they've gone on to do their thing. They're directing films, and unfortunately the actors really didn't really take off for them. So my question was going to be to, like, you know, my co-hosts, if they were here. But my kind of curiosity there, if anybody wants to chime in the comments, is that we get why, but do they actually deserve anything more? You know, this all comes down to contracts. This all comes down to securing your bid. You know, when you go in and you do a job, you read the contract, you sign your name, what it says in the contract you're going to get, and there was no breach or anything like that. They got everything that they signed up for. They signed for this, they signed for that, and then the movie exploded. Now, it was Artisan that put it out. Artisan makes the lion's share on that because, or I think Artisan was bought by Lionsgate, but Artisan was making that buku dollar, but there's no contractual guarantee that they, unless it was written in, that they need to share that wealth with the cast and the crew. Don't know. So my curiosity, I was kind of curious. What do you, the horror fans, think about that? Is that just, you know, the cast and crew looking to cash in, maybe get a quick paycheck, maybe to kind of like poke the bear and see if anything coughs up, maybe take a little, you know, get the little coin purse and then run off? You know, people got bills to pay. That's the reality of it. And they're announcing another freaking reboot, and that may be the opportunity. They're willing to spend money on that. Boom, boom, boom. You know, people get talking about it. That's your word of mouth. And then they get, you know, just throw them a little, they get thrown a bone. You know, maybe Lionsgate will just be like, Lionsgate or Blumhouse will be like, oh, here's a bone. Shut up. Here's a bone. Maybe that's what they're looking for. But do they have a right to do that? Do they deserve it? Are they just trying to cash in on what Blumhouse and Lionsgate are doing 25 years after the fact? You know, what is it? And if Lionsgate or Blumhouse give in and they throw them a bone, what does that say? You know, I'm kind of curious about that. So, or, you know, maybe they do deserve it. Maybe you think they do deserve it because of the grand success of that franchise, what it started off, what it kicked off. I found this fascinating because it goes into the behind-the-scenes politics and how much a studio was willing to put out in order to secure an upcoming project based upon the popularity of that. Or will they just kill it? Or will, like, moves like this end up killing a potential movie because they don't want to deal with that? So, you know, whether it's whichever way you decide, the reality of it is the cast and crew, whatever, that likely did not have points on the back end. They did not secure a percentage of that gross. It was like, if the film suddenly explodes, we want to get this, you know, or we want a percentage based on whatever. But of course, you're young, you're making a movie, not a lot of actors, not a lot of early actors really have, you know, can really afford lawyers to deal with that. Typically, you never think a movie's going to explode like it does, so you just kind of, you work for scale to pay your bills. So, yeah, they signed the contract. So that, Ivy Gentry brings it up. They signed the contract. Raven Dark says they should sue their managers for having them sign a stupid contract. But hey, man, that's that desperation, you know? It's rough. But let me know your thoughts. I'm curious as what people think about this, about the cast and crew coming back a quarter of a century later to kind of like poke the owner and see if they can get a bone out of him, if it's just a cash grab. Or are they actually entitled? Are they entitled to have that, given that they were the driving force behind this thing becoming a cultural juggernaut? something that added to the horror zeitgeist. So let me know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, at weekinhorror@gmail.com. I would have loved to hear what Johnny O and Eugene and the other guys think of that as well. Because, I mean, we work in the industry. So I've got my opinion. My personal opinion, I empathize with their position, but Lionsgate and Blumhouse don't owe them shit. That's my personal opinion, really. Lionsgate and Blumhouse do not owe any of that cast or any of those directors or either of the directors or any of that crew. They don't owe them shit. They signed their contracts were fulfilled, the movie released, that's the end of it. Coming back to try and poke it just so you might get a bone because you know that these studios can afford to throw you a bone to make you shut up, that's just gaming the system. And I don't think it sends a good I don't think the optics are very good. It does not send a good message when it comes down to the people like who we are hiring to put in our movies. If all of a sudden the movie like blows up, think about what that does for contract negotiations from now on, or the kind of message it sends. Well, if your movie suddenly explodes, are they going to come back and try to ding us? So it makes things really, really problematic. So Dylan Prell, good to see you. Says, good evening, JL. Stay scared, brother. Always, sir. Thank you very much, Dylan. Appreciate it. And I think I saw somebody else pop in as well. Doctor Who Design. Good to see you, Doctor Who. Appreciate you swinging the TARDIS around here. Always good to see you. Oh, and John Monahan has never seen the Blair Witch Project. You should probably check it out. 25-year-old film. 1999 is when they came out. I saw it in theaters. I saw it at the Inwood in Dallas, Texas. So we went to like the midnight screen. It was like a midnight showing of the Blair Witch Project. I went with my friend, who my lifelong friend, who was the best man at my wedding. But we went to go see that, and both of us were freaked out and a little bit motion sick because watching it on the big screen, watching it on a 60-foot screen, that motion sickness will get you. So, but yeah, I remember seeing that when back in theaters. It was badass. So freaky. So freaky. All right. Rose Noah's name says they bought their tickets. They knew what they were getting into. I say let them crash. Airplanes. Awesome. Ooh, Omnior Sports said I saw it in theaters as well. Very cool. Yeah. It was fun. It was an experience. Tang Whistle says, I don't hold it against them for asking, and I kind of hope the studio will give them something because the studio can afford to do that, but they've got no contract to back them. Agreed. I think it's just poking, I don't think it sends a good message. I don't think the optics are very good. I understand exactly why, and I empathize with their mentalities, especially given that there's this cultural juggernaut out there that you helped to create, that you are seeing nothing from, and motherfucker, you got bills to pay. I get it. We live in a capitalistic society. That's what it's about, Fuck you, pay me. So that is a double-edged sword, man. That sword cuts both ways. So what are you gonna do? But that's why I wanted people's opinion about it. Let us know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Okay. So that being said, now we go on to something a little bit more fun because Sarcasm says, where's Alex? We need a rant interrupt. I'm moving on to the next one, Sarcasm. So, don't call me. I don't attack. I feel attacked. So, before we dive into tonight's selections, we got one more thing because I was excited to hear that one of my favorite directors, Renny Harlin. If you're not familiar with Renny Harlin, which you probably should be, but if you're not familiar with Renny Harlin, he was the director of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Warriors. Dream Master, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Dream Master. He directed Die Hard 2. He directed Cliffhanger. Deep Blue Sea, a number of fantastic action films and a couple of horror films. He did The Covenant. He did, kind of dropped the ball with Exorcist at the beginning, but he was director on Mindhunters. So he's done a lot of really, Devil's Pass was really, really good. But Renny Harlin is back, and he has got a new movie, which looks, it's right up his alley. It's action and it's horror, and it looks like it's going to be serious horror, but it's action horror, and it is called Refuge, and the trailer for it just dropped. Now, I had to make a decision because I saw the trailer for this, and then I saw the trailer for M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong's new one, Trap. And I have to admit, I was compelled by both. I kind of wanted to, I almost wanted to show both trailers. I really did. But there's only so much time to kind of dedicate to it. So we typically choose one trailer to watch, and then we'll move on to the rest. But I'll admit, even though it's M. Night Shyamalan, even though it's him, I'm kind of intrigued by the movie Trap because I love Josh Hartnett. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I'm looking forward to him in a psychological thriller horror film. I'm kind of digging that idea, and I'm loving this fact that more mainstream actors, A-listers, B-listers, are embracing the horror genre and coming out with horror movies. Dakota Fanning's got one coming out, The Watchers. That is a straight up horror film. I'm digging this. I'm liking that big names are attaching themselves to legitimate horror projects, which I think is badass. So, but Rennie Harlan's got a new one coming out. It looks like a war horror film called Refuge, and we've got the trailer because it just recently dropped. I got the trailer right here. So let's cue up the terror tube and check this one out.
Says there's no way any of them would go in there.
Well, boys, we're gonna need a volunteer.
I got you, sir.
The doctors in Afghanistan stabilized him. We don't have the details of the combat incident.
No normal person hacks meat like
tough.
that.
Instincts are different there, but it was war.
Get off him, Rick!
I am terrified that I'm losing my husband. Please help us.
Tell me about Afghanistan. I was there. Karakat.
The home of horror.
I know you think he found something out there. Or something found him.
There are still things in this world that science has yet to explain. A jinn is an elemental demon and it feeds on trauma. It can be very strong.
How do we kill it? An exorcism?
In theory. What kind of effect does he have on the other side?
It's like he's controlling them.
I'm not afraid of you.
Yes.
This isn't real. None of it is.
Leave this place.
So that was the trailer for Refuge, directed by Rennie Harlan, written by Ben, if I can pronounce this correctly, Stonkreiser, I believe his name is, and starring Jason Fleming, Johanna Harlan, Raza Jaffrey, and Sophie Simnett. So the film follows a Sergeant Rick Padroni who comes home to his wife, Kate, changed and dangerous after suffering an attack by a mysterious force during combat in Afghanistan. And you can hear it in the trailer that it identifies the jinn. So it's of the Islamic faith. It is like what we would call, what Western religion would call a demon, and it's like a being of fire. So, and seeking destruction and death and shit like that. So not like Wishmaster, but I think it's along those lines. So basically, soldier in Afghanistan gets possessed by a jinn, brings it home, and chaos ensues. So knowing that this is a Rennie Harlan piece, there's going to be a shit ton of action, a shit ton of explosions, and it's going to be a lot of horror. So I'm looking forward to this one big time. And of course, there's no set release date for that just yet, but hopefully, I think it will be released this year, but we just don't have an official date yet. But look for that one coming out soon, Refuge. So I think that's going to be really, really cool. Let us know down in the comments below if, based on the trailer, if you are looking forward to Refuge, if you're going to check that out, or if you're a big fan of Rennie Harlan and his work going back all the way to the 80s. So definitely check that out. So I'm kind of excited. I'm excited for that one. I like Rennie Harlan stuff. He doesn't always hit, but when he hits, it's always really, really good. I mean, come on, Die Hard 2, Cliffhanger, fucking, amazing shit. So, but yeah, definitely check that out. All right. Sircap says Jacob's Ladder with demons, or with a djinn, maybe. It's hard to say, but Lieutenant Jedi says American Gods had a djinn in it. Yes, it did. American Gods did have a djinn in it. And I fucking love the series American Gods. I wish Starz hadn't screwed that series over the way it did so bad, especially how they screwed over Orlando Jones. But of course, that's a conversation for another time, because we could go for hours on, why American Gods was amazing and all of the elements that were within it. So, but yeah, Refuge, directed by Rennie Harlan. Look, I'm glad he's got another movie coming out. I think he also did The Bricklayer, was recent as well. So, but I always enjoy his work. And then of course, the film Trap, the psychological horror film Trap that's coming out with Josh Hartnett, and of course directed by M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong. So I hope it's not going to be like, what a twist. I hope it's not going to be like that, but the trailer looks fantastic. It really does. Looks really, really good. All right. So, as Alex likes to say, we have movies to talk about tonight. We've got some horror movies to dive into. So we got some good ones. We have, I think we have three solid ones and one not so solid. So, hey, but yeah, let's dive in. Our first one up tonight released April 28th, 1981. And we have Bloody Birthday. So going all the way back to the 80s for the killer kids trope that was hot back then. Let's check this out. Cue up the terror tube.
Give you something. It's gonna make you feel even better.
(1970). 3 children were born during a total eclipse of the sun. Now, 10 years later, they share a terrible compulsion to kill, and no one can stop them. If they decide they don't like you, watch out. The children will stop at nothing to get a deadly murder weapon. And anyone can be their victim. No one is safe. Not even their families can escape. Bloody Birthday. Children shouldn't play with sharp objects. They hate their babysitter and her little brother. And the teachers at school are so mean. No matter where you run, they'll find you. There's no escape. Bloody Birthday, a terrifying journey into the bizarre. Will you get out alive?
All right, so that was the trailer for Bloody Birthday. Just pure 80s, total 80s. Directed by Ed Hunt and written by Ed Hunt and Barry Pearson. Starring Lori Lethin, Casey Martell, Elizabeth Hoy, Billy Jane, Andy Freeman, Burt Kramer, and Melinda Cordell. The film follows a trio of children who were all born at the same time during an eclipse in 1970. And then 10 years later, on the eve of their 10th birthday, they decide to go on a killing spree and they just start murdering everybody. So, because apparently all three of them are psychos. And of course, chaos ensues from there as people start to get wise to as this one girl starts to get wise to what's going on. Now, obviously, set in obviously picking up on the whole trend of killer kids that was hot in the 80s. The film itself is definitely, and you could definitely see the inspiration of Village of the Damned. But the one thing that also got me on this one was how much Ed Hunt took from so many other films at that time. Now, the film released in 1981 shot in the fall and winter of 1980. And I noticed that cinematography style, a lot of choices that were made were stolen. Well, I hate to say stolen, but were taken directly from other big movies at the time. There is an entire sequence in this film that was lifted directly from Halloween. If you'll the whole deal, walking down the sidewalk, the angle catching the girls walking down, it was the lead girl and her best friend, who's the sister of one of the crazy kids, are walking down the sidewalk and they got their books in hand. Then her dad rolls up, who is the sheriff. Dad rolls down the window. They're talking to that whole sequence straight out of Halloween. There's a number of sequences that are taken directly from other horror films that came out or lifted, I would say, that were inspired by them or whatever, but they weren't done in a way. Now, Sir Cat says if you're going to steal from the best. Absolutely, I agree with that. If you're going to do it, at least do it from things that work, but always try to make it your own. That was the one thing that got me in this one. The acting in the film is not terrible by any stretch. I enjoyed the movie. Wrangling kids is always a challenge, so especially when you're dealing with very, very difficult content like this, when you have kids committing these kinds of acts instead of implying these kinds of acts, or if you're doing a movie like The Shining, where the kid who plays Danny you can shelter him from the darker shit that's going on. That kid didn't even know that he was in a horror film. But this one, you've got kids like legit, like, shooting people with guns, hitting, doing shit like that, like strangling people when she tries to strangle the kid, or locking him in a fridge and shit like that. It can be difficult. Wrangling children is always tough. And I thought that everybody was on point. It was extremely well done, solidly written. The only thing about it was there's never an explanation given, except for this kind of because at the time, 70s, 80s, astrology was kind of a big thing, in certain circles. It was a big, I guess, post-counterculture, astrology was still kind of hanging around, and so they utilized the astrology trope to explain that people born under certain signs are lacking certain things in their personality, and so that's the reason, because all these three kids were born under the same eclipse at this specific time during the year. That's the reason they're all crazy people. Obviously, there's no science there. It's all freaking magic, and it's just nonsense. But, it lends itself. That's where it's going to go. Cindy Sue says Nancy Reagan was big on astrology. Exactly. So astrology was a big thing, and a huge thing. Big shout out. Good to see you, Studio 1K18. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Always good to see new faces in the chat. So otherwise, the film in and of itself is not bad. Unfortunately, it gets kind of lost in the deluge of these types of movies that came out at that time. You got everything from Happy Birthday to Me, which released before this one. Happy Birthday to Me would kind of overshadow this one, being same thematically. Plus, this is Killer Kids, which is generally kind of a turnoff. So the movie didn't really pop, and it only got, I think it got a middling reception when it dropped. But it's since kind of developed a cult following because of the strong elements of the film. It's a good narrative that follows. It doesn't have any major plot holes. The kids are good performers, and the writing is decent. And there's kind of some liberties taken there, like how are these kids driving this car to such effective degree within a junkyard, and the level of planning that goes into these things, and I thought it was really, really weird, that whole sequence when they wind up when the ringleader, the daughter, who's the ringleader of the three of them, she realizes that her father, who was the sheriff, is getting a little too close, so they wind up killing him by trying to set him up for an accident, but they screw up, so they just beat him to death with a baseball bat. And then he's buried the same day, or maybe the next day. I don't know, because typically those things are weeks go by because you got to go through all the process, you got to go the logistics, and you got to schedule everything, but like the very next day. So time wise, it runs pretty quick. But hey, it's a horror film. What are you gonna do? Okay. Now it's like, oh, that gives us a chance to see the kids all weepy eyed. Oh, it's so sad, and then they go on to do their killer stuff. And there's some pretty heavy. Heady topics in there. You've got kids. You've got the ringleader chick is like, turned this hole in her closet into a peep show for her sister and selling young neighborhood boys access to this. There's some pretty rough. For 1981, there was some pretty tough stuff. Like, imagining kids doing this, even though you know how they make films, they were never exposed to anything of that nature. They're just acting against stuff that they don't see. So, there was some pretty, tough stuff in this one, which is why likely a lot of people may have rejected or just didn't get the attention, or it was overshadowed by a lot of larger films that had better, critical reviews. But the biggest thing that got me on this one was that the film just really can't stand on its own. Despite its strengths, it relies way too heavily, or Ed, the director, relied way too heavily on stuff that's already been done before. Now, unlike a movie like Happy Birthday to Me or Alison's Birthday, which is an Australian film, or a number of other like films that took common themes and then twisted them in a way to try and bring something original to it, or a lot of Canadian slashers like My Bloody Valentine, they take the trope that American films were utilizing, and then they try to at least make it their own and present something in a slightly different way, or utilize interesting cinematography, or try to alter the script in a way that'll make it a little bit more compelling and a little bit more intriguing to add that original spin, a more original spin to it, instead of just rehashing what everyone else has done. This one could have been solid if it hadn't relied so heavily on the bigger films beforehand. That's the only failure I see in this particular one. Otherwise, it's not bad. It's just one of those ones that you kind of watch, and unfortunately, you can kind of forget. Because there are other ones that just do it better and do it on their own terms. So if you dig these types of movies, especially with the killer kid genre, whether it's Village of the Damned or it's Children of the Corn or whatever it might be, if you dig those kinds, then this will definitely be up your alley. But because there's some intriguing stuff in there, not to mention just horror, but psychological horror as well. Because these kids are pretty fucking nasty. Hell, they beat one dad to death with a baseball bat, killed the one dude with the shovel and strangled his girlfriend, shot that was another thing that got me. If you look at the time period, and that was because it stands out. If you look at the time period, even the kills themselves, though graphic and compelling for a horror film, even the kills themselves were not really their own. Because those kills predominantly were taken from headlines. Not to mention Zodiac and David Berkowitz. So Zodiac and Berkowitz, or the Son of Sam killer, their behaviors inform this one heavily. The whole sequence of him prowling through the street, of one of the kids prowling through the streets with a friggin' gun, looking for targets, it just echoes Berkowitz up in New York, or Zodiac out in Vallejo, or even the Moonlight Murders in Texarkana. So even those are not inspired, because you could take that they're doing that, but you could at least make it a little bit different. At least put some kind of spin on it, not just have kids recreating shit that's going on in real life. It feels like it's grounded, like you're grounding it in reality because people are familiar with it. Now you're seeing kids do it, so it's all shocking, but it really doesn't play that way. All needs to be, it's a rehash. You're not seeing anything new, and you're not going to capture the audience's attention because they've already been desensitized by the media to what they're about to see. So that's that kind of level of planning and anticipation that is necessary. Instead of just saying, ooh, that was, that captured the public's attention because it was in the media. Let's make a movie where we do the exact same thing. Never flies at all, unless you've let enough time go by. So that ultimately, it's not bad. It just can't stand on its own. When you watch it, you're going to have the general feeling that there are other films that did it better, despite the strength of the performances, which I thought were really decent. The strength of some of the larger sequences. The junkyard sequence was decent. I thought the sequence with the refrigerator box was actually pretty damn good. I thought that was well done, well shot, and the idea of that is freaky because all of us as kids got that warning, don't play in a refrigerator, a closed door, you can't get out and shit like that. And that's an old one from like the 50s. It was like I think a 50s or 60s refrigerator box. And, you get stuck in it. Yeah, plus he locked him in there. And I like that sequence. I like that sequence with, him getting out. So they're, relatively smart characters doing, good stuff. And they wind up coming out on top, except for the end when the little girl gets away because the mother's kind of like, the dad's dead, the sister's dead, because you saw her in the trailer, because the trailer kind of like ruins everything. But, then we're going to move on, change our names, and the little girl's still killing. Because that sequence with the guy crushed under the car, that's at the end of the movie. So the trailer kind of gives away everything. Everything in there as well. So yeah, but nonetheless, it's not a bad film. It's just one of those little gems for the specific, lovers for the lovers of that specific subgenre that I think people will dig. It's well shot. It's well edited. The pacing is solid and doesn't leave much to the imagination, but otherwise an enjoyable ride, especially for those who dig this one. So, but of course, the killer kid genre, the killer kid subgenre, whether it be the children is another good one. The children, Children of the Corn, Village of the Damned, Bloody Birthday. There's so many of them that are out there. But my question is for all of y'all out there, because this film made me think about all the other films that did it so much better, or that lent themselves to inspiring this movie. What is y'all's favorite killer kid film? Of all the killer kid films, of which there are so many, going all the way back to the Bad Seed, but of all the killer kid films, what is your favorite? What do you think? What is your favorite? What do you think is the best? What has been the best one so far? Let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what your thoughts are on that. I'd love to hear you guys' opinion and what you think. And remember, those comments help with the interaction. Those interactions help with the algorithm here on YouTube. Helps us to push the channel further. A huge hello to Neon West. Good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. I do appreciate that. You rock. And William Turnbull as well. Good to see you. Says it's just really solid. It was a solid film. It was just not the best. Let me see. What do we got? Case Cooper says it's a good life. Awesome. Cindy Sue says Bad Seed. Fantastic. Sir Cam says Village of the Damned. The OG. Fuck yes. Left-Handed Jedi says The Omen. Oh, hell yeah. And Travis Brown says The Brood. Oh, yes. Raw, nasty little children. Gotcha. Oh, Road to Los Angeles says Pet Cemetery. Undead Kids. Gage and I will get you. I fucking love that. There's so many sequences that are so creepy. Tang Whistle says Omen or Children of the Corn. Children of the Corn was particularly brutal, because those kids leave, like, those fuckers go hardcore. Like, but I love the fact the adult comes in and is like, fuck you kids, and just slapping kids around. Shit is hilarious. It always gets me. Him from, I know he was in 30-something. And, oh, yeah, there's an age for you. He was in the show 30-something. And, of course, Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton. Road to Los Angeles says, technically Aliens. Nice, because Newt's badass. Or those little kids. Yeah, I get you. Evil Kids. And it says Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Nice. Yeah. Angel Rivera says, does Kindergarten Cop qualify? Only for about a quarter of the movie before he finally yells at them to shut up. He wants you to, Malachi. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, He Who Walks Behind the Rose. Do not check out the reboot. Don't. It is fucking garbage. I thought the Pet Cemetery reboot was a soulless piece of shit. Or the Pet Cemetery remake or whatever. I thought that movie was a soulless piece of shit. And it is. But fucking the new Children of the Corn is so atrociously bad. It's not even entertaining in a bad way. It has zero redeeming value whatsoever. Zero redeeming values. It's just like, it was just garbage. So hot shit. It really was. Not to mention the one that came out in Peacock that had so much promise, that one just pissed me off because it utilized the 2019 one as a springboard as it to be a sequel, and then it was just crap. So slow, terribly edited, terribly paced, just awful. Operation Free World says, I think The Ring. Samara. Samara's an evil kid. She was an evil kid. Demonic child, wreaking revenge. Travis Brown says, OG Children of the Corn is going to be 40 years old this year. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Linda Hamilton. Linda Hamilton. Amazing. My favorite. Let us know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what your favorite or what you think is the best killer kid horror, because there's so many to choose from. Mikey is a good one as well. Mikey was freaky because Mikey was just brutal as shit. Mikey, The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin. Good Son was good. Mikey was good. There's yeah, technically not a killer kid. Orphan really wasn't a killer kid. There's Something Wrong with the Children is really, really good. So many good ones out there. So yeah, awesome stuff. Ivy Getcher said the original Village of the Damned in black and white. Fuck yes. Fuck yes. Although I will say, even though I know a lot of people disagree with me, I have a special place in my heart for the John Carpenter Village of the Damned. I do. Just because, Christopher Reeves, Kirstie Alley, I really enjoy. I mean, I just like that movie. It is not one of John Carpenter's best. It's certainly not his worst. Ghost of Mars, but or The Ward, but yeah, I have a special place in my heart for Carpenter's Village of the Damned. I thought that was a very decent kind of a remake. But yeah, let's move on to our second film of the night. Our second one up, released April 29th, 1983. And we have the supernatural horror film Mausoleum. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
It's eating through the windshield.
Was it a broken dream? An unfinished memory? What terrible secret drew Susan to the Mausoleum?
The Mausoleum!
I didn't mean to scare you, Mrs. Farrow.
Right, go to the other one, go to the other one. Push that door open, come on.
She gave her soul to the evil force in the Mausoleum. What's the matter, Susan?
What in God's name is... Oh, my God!
Now, the secret haunts her, and she cannot control the power.
There's some strange shit going on in this house.
Yeah, fuck yes.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with my wife?
She's not your wife. The woman you're living with looks like Susan. She looks exactly like your wife, but she's not your wife.
She lives in horror as she tries to escape the demon she has become.
Obviously, we're not going to be able to confine her. What do you suggest?
Go to the Mausoleum tonight.
A new dimension in fright. An experience of untold terror.
This is evil! I am going to finish what your father died trying to do!
Are you brave enough to enter the Mausoleum?
Yes, that was the trailer for The Mausoleum, and you are correct, Neon West. Back in the day, trailers were a bit longer because they showed a lot more of the movies back then. They tend to like Bloody Birthday. You saw a lot of the movie in that one, but that was the trailer for Mausoleum, directed by Michael Dugan and written by Robert Barrick and Robert Madero, and starring the lovely Bobby Brazee and Marjo Gortner and Norman Burton, and Maury Sherbani, and the amazing LaWanda Page, Laura Hipp, and Sherry Mann. The film follows our protagonist, Susan Walker, who after the death of her mother is at the cemetery, and she runs away in a panic, and she enters the family mausoleum where unfortunately a demon is awaiting her, and the demon takes possession of her. And 20 years later, she is married with her husband, and the demon starts to exert its influence, and she starts killing everybody around. It's a sexually rapacious demon, and starts seducing everyone and killing everyone. And the psychologist, a la like Dr. Loomis, who is trying to help her, figures out that she's possessed and has to go and try and exorcise the demon out of her and to save her life, and then carry on. And of course, chaos fucking ensues. Now, this is I think I enjoyed this one a hell of a lot more than I should, and probably not for the reasons that the filmmakers would probably want me to enjoy it. For those that love it, yes. Obviously, Bobby Brzee is in this one, and Bobby is a former Playboy bunny, and I think she had her own issue, but bombshell, and I will have to say this: a hell of an actress. I'll have to give her that. She goes for broke. Her performance in this reminded me very much of Cronenberg's Rabid, of the original Rabid. And for those who are unfamiliar with that one, so 1977 film, Cronenberg dropped a movie called Rabid, which is about this woman who gets infected with this kind of like parasitic organism and goes around and after a surgery, she has this parasitic organism that needs to feed on people, and it feeds on guys and then turns them into zombies and shit. Marilyn Chambers was amazing in that fucking movie, and it was wild because Marilyn Chambers was not normally who you would cast as a major like film like that in a lead role because of her background as an adult actress. And so, but Marilyn Chambers was brought in, and despite that, Cronenberg brought her in and had her read, and she fucking kicked ass. Bobby's performance in this one impressed me to that degree. I was like, this girl knew what she wanted to do. She knew what she needed to bring to the role as far as playing the dual role of the demonic version of herself and the normal version. And I really did. I got vibes. I got Marilyn Chamber vibes off that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, there is plenty of TNA for those who really dig this. And unfortunately, the one thing that kind of hampers it, a lot of people are going to complain about this one, is that the story is a little silly because there's not a lot of exposition on it. What we do know is that there's this demon that's attached to the family name, and that her father attempted to lock the demon away and trap it in the family mausoleum for whatever reason. And that the only way to shut this thing down was to trap it with this crown of thorns. But it can't be destroyed. So it's basically trapped in the fucking mausoleum. The daughter happens to go in there running, she's all distraught from the death of her mother, and she doesn't want to live with her aunt. And so she runs in there and she winds up getting possessed. And that's how the series of events take place. None of that is explained. None of the history of this thing. They touch on a little bit what this demon might be, whatever, but it's kind of like, meh. It's like, none of that exposition is necessary. We just need to know that hot blonde bombshell is seducing people for all these gratuitous sex scenes, and then she turns into a demon and she fucking tears them apart. And that's what we get. We do get some interesting kill scenes, which I thought were pretty decent. The one thing that I will give a lot of props to this one for, even though this was the 80s, was the practical effects of the demon herself. The progressive transformation of Bobby into the monster was done exceptionally well. There was a lot of great tricks that were utilized as far as the practical effects go. Not just layering her up with latex or putting her in a rubber suit, but there was a lot of little details. The only thing they follow, yes, the Nomad family, demon spelled backwards, yes, the Nomad family. The only thing that will make you laugh and take you out of it is the green overlay, the green animated overlay that's used at some points in the film to make her eyes look green, to make her eyes glow green. And it's fucking silly as shit. It's silly as hell. It goes up there with the Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser films, when the Cenobites get dispersed, and it's that orange electrical animation energy that's like, woo, and then the little sprite effects. It reminded me of that shit. It's really simple, really cheap stuff today. Was interesting back then, but but the practical effects of the monster were actually, I thought, were quite good. Very, very grotesque, faces into boobies, you know, shit like that. There's one sequence where she turns into it and like the faces like eat the heart out of her husband and shit. It's like, yo, there's some really great, a lot of like ribs sticking out and shit like that. Those are really good practical effects in this one. I'll give it that. Decent practical effects, people's faces melting and shit, and you know, people getting torn apart. But otherwise, the film in itself, you know, I think the problem is that throughout the trajectory of the movie, the pacing of the movie and the editing don't really lend itself to any kind of a peak, and it's kind of a slow burn. It's kind of a slow slog, despite the veracity, despite the ferocity of the kills or the savage nature of the kills. What's going on is not. I don't think it's in my eyes. It's not edited correctly. The energy points in the different areas where there should be strong energy, where we have these key moments in the movie, they don't really spike all that well. They're kind of like out of sync. And so you get this weird kind of staccato sensation throughout the whole movie. So that will put some people off of it. And there's a big thing I have to throw this in there. I love the fact that LaWanda Page is in this. The LaWanda Page, playing the housekeeper. I fucking love LaWanda Page. I've loved her since Sanford and Son, and you know she was a dear friend of Red Fox, and she's in this movie for about that long. I think she has like 4 or 5 scenes. Actually, no. Actually, I'm going to say no. Probably 4 or 5 scenes, maybe 4 scenes. She's not in the movie that long, and she makes it out alive. So she's actually she's actually a black actress, like a black character that makes it out of the movie, that does not get killed because she knows when to dip. And the writing for her was hysterical, allowing her to dominate it, to have her own scene. And that's when she figures out that something crazy is going on in the house, and she's like freaking out, and she runs downstairs down to when the bar used to be downstairs, you know, where the man cave was. She runs down to the bar. She's like, I'm gonna need the good stuff. She's like drinking. It's like, oh, I'm gonna need a double. I ain't been this nervous. That line, I ain't been this nervous since I was black. It was fucking inspired. You could tell that she was ad-libbing that. That's all her, just kind of running with that. And then when she opens the door and she sees that Susan is turning into a demon, she's like, fuck this, and literally runs downstairs, like that, runs downstairs, and then the next you see the door opening, and she's got her jacket on, her hat on, and she's got like all her shit, and she is like taken off, and we never see her again. She literally was like, saw that, fuck this, dipped out. Absolutely hilarious. What I did not like was the music choice, was the scoring behind her scene, because they turned what I thought was an excellent series of improvs by LaWanda, and they turned that whole sequence into a fucking minstrel scene, which I did not like, because I thought I thought that the choice of scoring detracted from what could have been a very solid comedy horror moment. And it turned it into a zany moment that was like reductive to what LaWanda was bringing to that. If you change the score up on that to something a little bit more sinister, that would lend itself so much better. And I had that thought. My Omni Ouroboros had that thought. It's like, I'm out of this crazy white shit. These fucking white people. I had that same thought that she was going to say something like that. It was like, whatever. But that I didn't like. I felt like the filmmakers made the wrong choice on that one, and that took me out, because the choice of scoring they used goes all the way back to the idea that to the antiquated concept that black people played the minstrel role in films, and that goes back to like like golden era Hollywood, like old school studio shit. I didn't like that they reduced this really, really funny role to just that. I thought it was reductive. It did her a disservice, and kind of like I will honestly say, I'm kind of going on about it. It kind of pissed me off. I was like, that sequence was funny on its own. It did not need them trying to make it funnier, because LaWanda Page was fucking hilarious. That woman could do anything. And I thought that you had this inspired casting in this one small role, and that she dominates it by just making it happen, and then they just took it away from her, which really fucking pissed me off. So that kind of annoyed me. So I think he saw it and almost broke and is now ignoring it. No, I just say what? Apparently there was a comment that I missed. Maybe I missed it. And a few good moments, nice. I would have spent an hour and a half. Oh, so Sir Cat says it had a few good moments and nice booba, but I would have rather spent an hour and a half watching grass grow. Yeah, it's that was the big. Oh, let's see. Raven Dark said was that what was that first clip? Looked like a Star Trek ripoff or Puppet Masters ripoff. Oh, in the Terror Tube. Son of a bitch. What was that one? I know the middle one was Cat's Eye. And I don't recall. I don't remember. Unless it was Without Warning. I think it was it Without Warning? I think it was Without Warning. I think that's what it was. Yeah, Without Warning. So that was on the Terror Tube. Operation Free World says, "Damn, a movie that pissed off JL. That's got to be a record first. That's going to be a record, right? First I've heard. There have been moments that have pissed me off. Obviously, Operation Free World. You're not familiar with my extreme love and hate I have for Ninth Gate, because the ending of that just destabilized that whole goddamn movie. Fucking 2.5 hours, man. 2 hours and 25 minutes." Of just exquisite filmmaking. Last 5 minutes, fucked it all over. Fuck you, Ninth Gate. Every time. That was just one moment in this that really, really kind of aggravated me. I did not like that they did it. That was a filmmaker's choice. That was the people on the back end during the editing. I didn't appreciate that. But otherwise, the film in itself is not bad. But like I said, it's the pacing that throws this one off. Despite what I thought was a really solid, dedicated performance from Bobby Brzee. I thought that she was fantastic, and I thought she did an exceptionally good job. Now, for those not familiar with her, she had kind of a small, her career wasn't long-lived. She was in Ghoulies, the chick, with the tongue sequence where she's like, "Oh, I'm hot," and then the tongue comes out and She was in Ghoulies. She was in the original Ghoulies. She was in Surf Nazis Must Die, and she was in Evil Spawn. Evil Spawn, I think, was honestly... Evil Spawn, I think, was honestly, her best role, because she plays an aging starlet that tries to find this cure to make her young again so she can have her career back, and the cure ends up turning her into this insectoid monster, and she chaos ensues from there. But I thought that one was the best, because that one was her deepest character work. But Mausoleum was not bad. She showed that she's willing to go where she needs to go to do a horror film. So definitely check it out if you dig her. Plus, if you like, all the booba, if you're watching it just for that. So, Sarcasm says, "JL, Johnny Depp called. He says he wants you to do a rewrite of the ending for rewrite of the ending for a reboot." I wish, because I would put everything on hold to do a reboot, to remake that movie and do it right this time. I really would. Okay, apparently I missed the comment. So it wasn't that comment. It was another comment from Raven Darkstar. Why am I hunting? I'm hunting for comments because now I'm curious. You've spiked my curiosity. You have piqued my curiosity. Now I'm looking for a Raven Darkstar comment. Where's a Raven Darkstar comment? Where's it at? What did she say? They should sue their manager. No, that's back at the Blair Witch conversation. So I went back too far. I'm not seeing it. I have to look for your blue name. Your name is in blue, so it should pop out to me. Boys from Berlin. So I remember you mentioned that one. What was that first clip? Okay, so that was I went back too far. City Alicia Milano. No. JL Peak or Climax. So funny. Cute. Very, very cute. Cute. Oh, very cute. Yes, Peak or Climax. I just saw it. So ha ha ha. That's what I get for going back to look. So, but yeah, Mausoleum was not a terrible film. There are some movies that did the concept a little bit better. I like the one thing that I think this had going for it was the fact that at the time that it dropped, it embraced a lot of concepts. Technically, the movie had Playboy. It's Playboy bunnies. I thought the most interesting stuff about this movie is stuff that's behind the scenes. The behind the scenes stuff about Mausoleum is actually kind of fascinating. First and foremost, you have your lead actress who's driving the whole thing, who was a Playboy bunny. That automatically got people's attention. What's it going to do? I mean, 77, Marilyn Chambers did it with Rabid. Bobby can do it with this one. Second thing, the guy who plays her husband, I found this to be really, really fascinating. Hugh Gortner. Hugh Gortner is actually was actually a fundamentalist evangelical preacher. And he became a preacher at a really, really young age. And so I think it's Marjo Gortner. So, but Hugh Gortner was And then you see, when you know that about him, and then he segued into acting and then wound up doing roles like this, which I found really, really fascinating. So huge Gortner. But so he was involved in this one, despite the context, because he was like, from what I heard, what I read about, he's actually pretty like, he's pretty hardcore in that. He was pretty hardcore when he was one. I don't think he is one. I think he's retired, but he was like, a fundamentalist evangelical preacher. And then the film itself was financed by the mafia, was how they got this bad boy off. So Michael Franzese basically said that he funded the film. I think Michael Franzese was involved with the Colombo crime family. And Michael Franzese, who, if you're not familiar with him, he actually has a YouTube channel where he talks about a lot of shit nowadays. But he was a former capo regime in the Colombo crime family, and he co-funded the picture with another associate, an unnamed associate, who were both members of the Cosa Nostra crime family. So the movie is mafia made, is mafia funded, and starring a Playboy bunny and a former evangelical, fundamentalist evangelical preacher who decided to go into that. And apparently there was a bunch of like classical mafia stuff going on in the back end where people, services were done, but people didn't get paid and people had to get dragged into court and sued. And there's all kinds of shorthanding shenanigans that you would fully expect the mafia, like mob people, to do to make this movie work. And then people had to go shit like that. I found it to be hilarious. So made by the mafia, starring a Playboy bunny and an ex-fundamentalist evangelical preacher with lots of TNA and some fairly decent practical effects to make a demon monster that seduces people with faces in her boobies. I don't think you can go wrong with that. I really don't. And hey, Skits Crasher, good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out. Sarcasm says tonight's second tangent brought to you by Backstage Drama. Thank you, Sarcasm. We appreciate that. So yeah, but otherwise, it's not a terrible film. I recommend it if you haven't got a chance to watch it. I believe it is on Tubi right now, so you can go check that out. It's a fascinating little film and interestingly shot, with some decent acting and, I think a gem. One of those gems that kind of like you may have missed along the wayside, given there were so many films of this type, supernatural possession horror films in the early 80s. So definitely give this one a look. Really, really, a really fascinating, kind of a good example of the fascinating and weird horror that came out of the weird 80s horror. Because 80s was so experimental in what people could do and trying to do new, interesting shit. And this is one of those ones, kind of pops along. I kind of dug that. I kind of dug it. So the question I have for the audience tonight, given that this was the whole thing was centered around a mausoleum, I was kind of curious. Who out there, probably none of you, but maybe some of you, does anyone out there find mausoleums, crypts, tombs, cemeteries in general? Do you find those creepy? Are those inherently creepy places for you? Or do you not find them creepy? Are you more of the Eric Draven side where it's the safest place in the world to be because everybody's dead? So let me know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. Do you find mausoleums, crypts, tombs, cemeteries themselves creepy? Do you like films that center around those things? Do you dig that? Or are those ones kind of like, those ones kind of creep me out because the idea of, zombies and the undead and shit like that, or the places of eternal rest, that those kind of creep you out. So let me know down in the comments below or weekinhorror@gmail.com. I'm curious what people think. Tang Wilson says, I generally find them to be peaceful. I do as well. I find them to be very peaceful. And I'm kind of on the Eric Draven side. I'm kind of on the Crow side, safest place in the world to be because everybody is dead. I got to give him that. Lieutenant Jedi said, I just had a flash from the movie Phantasm, but they don't bother me. Tall man, yeah. Got to give it that, yeah. Raven Darker says, still pisses me off how horrible Sasha Grey's mainstream movie was done. Sasha Grey got the fucking short end of the stick, like seriously. I honestly think that girl never got the opportunity that she deserved because I think she got pigeonholed when she started trying to transition to mainstream films, and she got pigeonholed and no one would let her out of it. The furthest I saw her get was Would You Rather with Brittany Snow and Jeffrey Combs, and she just did not get the opportunity she deserved. I honestly cannot say if that girl, if Sasha Grey can legitimately act. I can't say if she can or can't, because the material that she was given required no talent to come across. It was one-dimensional, two-dimensional characters with limited backstory and only conveying one particular emotion or maybe two emotions given the scene that she was in, and then that was it. She never got the opportunity to really, really spread her wings as an actress, as just like a mainstream formal actress. I get the stigma that the unnecessary and undeserved stigma that comes with individuals who have been in the adult film industry. I get it. And I get how antiquated minds just kind of like shit on that. And it pisses me off because it's fucking unnecessary. It's, it reminds me of like the old job I used to work at where they wouldn't let anybody grow facial hair because people with beards are, come off as untrustworthy. People with visible tattoos come off as untrustworthy. Fuck, no, they don't. No, they don't, but they're antiquated. Antiquated bullshit like that. And I think the antiquated bullshit is what cost Sasha Grey, that she did not get the opportunity. If I could write a movie and cast her in it, I know roles that she would be fucking amazing in. And I would probably write them specifically for her to really kind of like I would want to throw her a role that is completely antithetical to to the energy she gives off, her visual appeal, all of that. I would throw her something that would just be like totally upend everything. I like doing that for the actors, for actors that when I'm casting, I like to cast people in roles that are really, really antithetical to what people think they can play, to see them really stretch and really get their, spread their wings and just see how hard they can push and how hard they can go in diving into a character that people would normally associate them with. I love doing that. I had the lucky opportunity myself to write a project years ago, back in the early 2000s. I got the opportunity to write a project for my now wife and two people who were in her film class. And it was a three-person short. And I wrote, and if you look at the three of them, you automatically see them in various roles. One dude, his name was Brandon. He was a big, huge, swole, like bodybuilder guy. The other guy, Chad, he was this Western dude. He's kind of like a Western appeal, tall, lanky, kind of like almost gunslingerish. And he just had the kind of like laid back kind of style to him, kind of low energy. And of course, my wife, who is just cheerful and bubbly and happy and just optimistic and just, very energetic. And I wrote a project for them where there were where the lanky, laid back guy was the overwrought brother, the overwrought, stressed out, completely, frazzled brother to Brandon, who was the big, huge, buff, bodybuilder guy who I wrote to be his brother who had diminished capabilities. Think like of Mice and Men, diminished capabilities, very, very simple Jack, but very simple. And then my wife, Angela, I wrote her as like the mean, conniving, and acid-tongued girlfriend who didn't want to live in the same house with his idiot brother. And I wrote that sequence for the three of them, and they fucking killed it. The chance to do something they don't normally do. I love fucking doing that, and Sasha Grey needs that opportunity. She really does. And I think that's what I like to do. That's just me. That's what I like to do as a writer and as when I'm casting projects. Really put people in there so they can really try to do something interesting. All right, but yeah, let us know down in the comments below what you think. What your thoughts are. Mausoleums, crypts, tombs. Cemeteries in general. Are they creepy? Do you find them scary? Do you find them off-putting, or are they peaceful places, pieces of rest? Are they like the Crow, the safest place on earth? Let us know. I'm very curious about that. All right, moving on to our next one, because I think I'm dragging a little bit. We got about half an hour left, but this was one of my favorites, a very, very solid one, and of course, released May 1st, 1987. We have the sequel, Creepshow II. Yes, Romero and King back at it again. Let's check out this trailer. Cue up the terror tube.
5 years ago, Stephen King and George Romero, two masters of the macabre, created their hallmark of horror, Creepshow. Many would argue that nothing of significance has happened since. Until now.
Old wooden head.
Maybe you don't get out much.
Oh, this is crazy. This is totally crazy.
Maybe you're always running late.
I gotta go.
Ah, yes!
Or maybe you just have other things on your mind.
They gotta make me a movie star.
But if you only make it to one scary film all year, make it one you remember all year long. Creepshow II. If you like movies that will keep you stuck to your chair. Stephen King and George Romero have conjured up an all-new Creepshow.
No! That's impossible!
Thanks for the ride, lady!
I mean, what is it?
I don't know.
So don't just sit there.
I'm gonna swim for it right now.
Walk. Run. Swim if you have to.
I got you!
But whatever you do, don't take your time. Because the scares come twice as quickly in
I beat you.
Creepshow 2.
Yes, that was the trailer for Creepshow 2. Oh man, what an amazing anthology! One of the better sequels out there. So, released 1987, and of course directed by Michael Gornick, screenplay by George Romero, based on stories by Stephen King, starring Lois Childs, George Kennedy, Dorothy Lamour, and Tom Savini. Plus a number of other fantastic actors in there. But yes, a horror anthology film that has a number of. We saw the little pieces in there. And of course, you've got the interlude, which is Billy receiving a package of the Venus flytraps. That's the framing narrative. And then you've got old Chief Woodenhead with oh God, you love him with freaking George Kennedy, man. Just a great character actor. And then of course the Raft, which I think is everybody's favorite in this. Then the Hitchhiker, which is I think fantastic. The Thanks for the Ride lady, and then of course the epilogue where the bullies are all eaten by the giant Venus flytrap monster. So a fantastic little follow up. I thoroughly dug this one because it's the spirit of Creepshow. The only thing I didn't really dig was the fact that they went live action with the Creeper to that degree. I liked the original one of like the character like out there at the window. I know it's puppetry, and that one they decided to go live action with this one, but nonetheless, that's not something to really detract from. This one hit the horror sequel in perfect stride. Excellent adaptations of the films of Stephen King stories. The screenplay was absolutely fantastic. I thought that Romero knocked this one out of the park as far as writing goes, which is weird because we talked before about Romero's adaptation of books before, and on a previous episode, and Romero had real trouble adapting stuff with the Dark Half. It was him adapting Stephen King before, and Romero had difficulty with that one as far as the casting goes. Might have lent itself to it, but knowing what to cut out of the stories and what not to cut is always very, very hard. But on this one, he manages to knock it out of the park because all of every important thing is in here. So I don't know, but this is an example of how you do it, which goes to show us that George Romero can handle, or was always able to do the stuff that we want him to do, and that was adapt things appropriately. Plus, maybe it was the adapting and the directing combined that was tough because you're wearing two different hats, two very important hats. And that may have been what got in the way, not to mention Timothy Hutton in Dark Half. But in this one, it was Michael Gornick. Michael Gornick did fantastic direction. These things kind of like direct themselves, especially given the talent that's involved. And the stories themselves were fantastic by Stephen King because few actors, you don't even need that many actors. Hell, the Hitchhiker is like literally a two-hander. It's Annie and the hitchhiker that she runs into, the Dover-bound hitchhiker. And of course, the Raft is a 4-person one because it's 4 people on a raft being menaced by a lake monster. And then, of course, Old Chief Woodenhead, which is just a fun classic one of the vengeful Indians, the vengeful Native American statue outside of the little corner store. Travis Brown says, nothing can stop the Stephen King's meteor shit. Yes, meteor shit. Yeah, I love that. And Sherry Tilly's like, where's my cake, Bedelia? Where's my cake? Nothing but a bunch of greedy vultures. I love that. I love that one. So Father's Day. It's Father's Day. They're both classics. These are fantastic. There's really the biggest thing about this one is the Creepshow films showcase how solid anthologies are in comparison to feature films. That's where the really big thing comes down here too. I think that this showcases. Oh, Dylan Pro says kind of tame for the most part compared to the predecessor, but The Raft made me shit myself. The Raft is fantastic, and I love that they set it right there in the middle. It was fantastic. It was really, really good. Now, the original one, like the original Creepshow, you've got the cockroach one, which I know put a lot of people off their cookies. You got The Beach with Leslie Nielsen and Ted Danson, who were fucking amazing. They've all gone blah, 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 blah. And then, of course, The Crate with Hal Holbrook and fucking Adrienne Barbeau. Just tell it to call you Billy. There's so many good ones in that. And then, of course, the framing narrative, fucking Tom Atkins, one of my favorites, one of my favorite actors. It's just absolutely amazing. Yes, Raven Darkstar, two-handed. It's a two-hander where you have two people. Come on, you know what I'm talking about, Raven. Don't play. I can hold my breath for a long time. Fucking love it. But this is the big thing. Anthologies. Horror in short form. That's what makes these things drive. That's what drives them. They're fantastic. But this made me think. I was like, the Creepshow II. Going back to watch it again. We don't talk about Creepshow 3 though. Sherry Telly, what's the matter, Mr. Pratt? Bugs got your tongue. Going on and on. I could go on and on about all the various lines in that movie. But the whole going back and watching Creepshow 2 spotlighted something very important for me. And the big thing about it was that the problem with anthologies today, in my personal opinion, and you may share this opinion, you may not, horror anthologies are I think damn near the best way to deliver horror to the audience. Short form horror. Don't get bogged down in exposition. Don't get bogged down on unnecessary filming. You film what needs to be filmed. You tell the story in its basic 3-act premise. Boom, boom, boom. And there you have it. It's easy to digest. It tells that kind of like that one short story and you're good to go. Okay. Other films like this, Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt, the original one was, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, a number of anthology films that were out there that were fantastic. I mean, Vault of Horror with we talked about that one. We talked about Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, both of them on this show, and stuff with Peter Cushing had one as well. I believe that was Tales from the Crypt, the original Tales from the Crypt anthology, and so many good things, and in the anthologies of the past. What is it today that studios or indie filmmakers simply cannot get right? I think the best anthology I've run across in the past, I'm going to say 20 years, is going to be VHS. The first VHS. That's like the best. Trilogy of Terror. Excellent. Trilogy of Terror is another fantastic example. Past 20 years, sorry. I'm going to say VHS and Trick or Treat. Even though Trick or Treat wasn't, that was kind of an anthology, but not done in with the framing narrative way. I guess you could say that Sam was the framing narrative, but Michael Daughtry did a fantastic job. Well, Daughtry did a fantastic job on that one. So Trick or Treat and VHS. But that's two since the early 2000s. And I can't think of a solid one since. I don't know what it is that people, that studios today can't seem to get right about anthologies nowadays. The formula is very simple. Framing narrative that links the stories together. Very simple. But maybe it's the culture. Maybe audiences just don't dig on anthologies like they used to. I honestly think they're one of the best ways to convey horror. When Hulu did its Halloween shorts. Those short films made for fantastic stuff, made for fantastic, you could put them together into put them together into a film, and I thought that they were solid. But movies like Holidays, Tales of Halloween, there was that radio station one that I can't remember the title of it, but they just don't even ABC. Okay, even ABCs of Death, which is because it's missing the framing narrative. All the attempts just don't really. Cat's Eye, another great example of doing it right. Great anthology movie with a great way to tie them all into one big story. Fantastic. Masters of Horror, was great as far as short form horror goes, but not really an anthology because there's no framing narrative. But that's the key right there. That's the kicker. I don't know what it is that's getting in people's ways right there. I think anthologies are fantastic. Feature films are another way, but too often nowadays, I see feature horror films get bogged down in way too much exposition, way too much what I call masturbation, way too much masturbation on film. And that's just like, we're here, we have this. Blumhouse is guilty of this as sin. Blumhouse does this all the time. Let's utilize our expensive tech, utilize our amazing cameras and our amazing equipment and all these fantastic. Let's linger as long as possible on all this great production value for as long as we can to inflate the length of our film. And they do it all the time. Not saying that Blumhouse does it all. I mean, they do it all the time, and I'm not saying it doesn't always work. Blumhouse does a lot of good movies, but Imaginary did that shit. Night Swim was a good example as well. Just way too long. And you would think with attention spans kind of where today's kind of generations with I would say the slightly shorter attention span, the focus on short content, on short form media would attract more anthologies to be made. But I don't see it happen. I don't see it happening. And I wish that they would. I wish that more people, more filmmakers would step up and embrace anthologies like these two. We have an idea for an anthology here at Week in Horror, a collection of short films linked together with a framing narrative. I've had it had it sitting kind of over there for a bit, that we could put this together. And I hope one day we get to shoot it, More patrons would help with that. It really would. Patrons. But that's the kicker right there, is that anthologies are strong, but they just don't get embraced like they used to. And Creepshow and Creepshow II, for their casting, for the simplicity of their shots, finding the horror in minimalism, which I really, really dug. You think about The Raft. People in the live chat have brought up The Raft a number of times. Very simple. 4 characters, which are pretty much just your horror character tropes. One location, lake with raft in it. Monster in the lake. And literally is like looks like an oil slick. That's it. That's what it is. And then the struggle for survival from there. King knew how to grab people with short stories. I love a lot of his short stories are absolutely amazing. I fucking love them. And they adapt so well because you can leave virtually all of it in there and get a really, really compelling story that doesn't, that just isn't so long, but I don't know. I mean, we need more anthologies. We really, really do. So I think that's what going back and watching Creepshow 2 really kind of made me think about that and what we are lacking today in the horror genre. The lack of willingness to embrace horror anthologies by the people who have the talent and the vision to make them happen. That's where I think we're at right there. And I think we need more. So in Creepshow 2, movies like Creepshow 2, Creepshow, hell, maybe even Creepshow 3, Cat's Eye, a number of Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Tales from the Dark Side, they're just going to make you want more. They really, really will. Pit and the Pendulum, Corman's Pit and the Pendulum, Lance Henriksen, fuck yes. So, but yeah, Haunting of Morella, which technically not an anthology, but, combination of Poe stories. But nonetheless, my curiosity, the thing I want to ask the audience, I want to ask y'all is, of Creepshow 2, because we know there's a lot of love for the first Creepshow. You know, Ed Harris getting smoked by a zombie with a gravestone. Fucking love that scene. It just makes me laugh every time. What is your favorite entry of the stories in Creepshow 2? Because there were 3 of those stories. What was your favorite? Was it Old Chief Woodenhead, where the Native American statue gets revenge for the deaths of the shop owner and his wife? Was it the raft, where idiot teenagers get up on a raft and are menaced by a lake monster? Or was it what was it? Fuck it. Thanks for the ride. Shit. The Hitchhiker, where Annie Lansing, you know, hits the hitchhiker and then he falls around saying, thanks for the ride, lady. So let me know what your favorite is. Let me know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com what your favorite entry in Creepshow 2 was of those 3, because all 3 of them are so good. It's going to come down to personal, just to people's opinions. But let me know which one is the best. The raft also gets me. Why does the raft get me? Because the manner of people dying in that is just horrible. Being melted alive by this creature is just awful. And then it comes up through the slats, gets her in the face, and she's like, oh. So yeah, just brutal. Let me know what your favorite is of the entries in Creepshow 2. And hell, let me know. Creepshow 1. What's your favorite in Creepshow 1? So yeah, The Hitchhiker's a lot of fun. I got you. I fucking love that shit. Thanks for the ride, lady. All right. We got a little bit of time left. Let's jump on to our last one, the toughest one, that's really more interesting behind the scenes and not so much what you see on screen. And what more could I really say that the guys over at Rift Tracks and MST3K, what more could I say? Really, this is kind of the stuff about the people behind it. But yeah, released May 2nd, 1961, going back, way back in the way, another 20 years the way back machine. We have the Beast of Yucca Flats. Yeah. Oh, let's check it out. Cue up the terror tube. Oh, you see me dragging. I almost don't. This shit was fucking painful.
What the fuck are you?
A man who wanted to be a god, then changed his mind.
A fly can look like a spider. A caterpillar can look like a snake. The Judas evolved to mimic its predator. Us.
Well, for one thing, we probably just shot it about 30 times, Sheriff.
I want to see it in the live chat. You know what I want. I want to see it in the live chat.
Coming to this theater soon, The Beast of Yucca Flats. Filmed on the burning hot sands by Yucca Flats. See terror, panic, murder. See the Cardoza and Francis production of The Beast of Yucca Flats. See a man turn killer. See a woman ravaged. See one of the most exciting movies ever made. See
it has no dialogue.
Of Yucca Flats. A killer on the loose. Death sweeps across the desert. Panic. A bloodthirsty killer stalks a moonlit desert. The Beast of Yucca Flats.
Oh, Tor. Gotta love Tor. I squish you. Yes, that was the trailer for The Beast of Yucca Flats. Oh, man, this movie. This movie. Wow, holy shit. Well, I accidentally closed the tab. So, The Beast of Yucca Flats, released on television as Atomic Monster, The Beast of Yucca Flats. Obviously, I don't know. I would call this Z horror personally. Written and directed by Coleman Francis. Holy shit. And there's some stuff to talk about there. But yes, written and directed by Coleman Francis and starring the legendary, I got the burps. The legendary Tor Johnson, Douglas Malloy, Barbara Francis, Bing Stafford, and Conrad Brooks. Conrad Brooks of Ed Wood fame, who was in Plan 9 from Outer Space and Glenn or Glenda and a number of other films. But the film itself basically follows a Soviet scientist named Joseph Jaworski who defects and then flees to America, and he flees to Yucca Flats, which was renowned at the time for being the one big place where they tested nuclear weaponry, and winds up being turned into a mindless monster by atomic radiation and begins stalking the desert, where he then just goes on a murder spree until eventually he's killed. That's pretty much it. The one thing going for this movie is its short run time, is the fact that it's not that terribly long, and I will say thank Christ for MST3K, because watching in my personal opinion, and maybe it's not, maybe this is everybody's opinion, this film is fucking unwatchable. Damn near. It is. The film is fucking unwatchable and does such an incredible disservice to some of the people that were working on this film. Now, Coleman himself had no business, in my personal opinion, had no business directing whatsoever. Although I understand I thoroughly understand what Coleman was wanting to do, what his vision was and what he was trying to say. But I think that he had no idea how to say it, and didn't know when he was in there working, had no plan for where he was going to go. I think he had rudimentary ideas that never really got fleshed out, which is deeply problematic for a writer and a director. Because sometimes when you're writing it, that's one thing, sitting there in your typewriter back in the 1960s, you're writing it out. But once you get on set, it's a whole nother animal. And this just smacks of someone who was ill prepared for what he was about to take on. And from everything I've read about the film, that's the general consensus of everybody that was working with him, is that he was really out of his element. And so I get that. The Beast of Yucca Flats is and the two films in Coleman's trilogy. The only movies he ever directed was The Beast of Yucca Flats, and then there was there was The Beast of Yucca Flats and Skydivers, the Skydivers and Red Zone Cuba. And Skydivers came out in 1963 and Red Zone Cuba came out in 1966. Now, if you think about what's going on at the time in the 60s, obviously post World War II, nuclear threat, the kind of prevailing fear of nuclear weapons, when the media was telling people to duck and cover, and in the event of nuclear bombs dropping. Bay of Pigs saga, shit like that, and the stuff, the Cuban Missile Crisis, what was going on. But all of the threat of nuclear weaponry, the fear, the overwhelming, or the pervasive sense of the sense of pervading fear or dread and foreboding, whatever, of nuclear weapons, is what inspired Coleman to do these films. Because all three of them, even though not all three of them, they're not all horror films, but that's his kind of anti-atomic weapons or anti-nuclear weapons trilogy is what it is. The whole thing is an anti-war, anti-nuclear weapons kind of they're protest films is what they are. And the first one, Beast of Yucca Flats, is basically about the terror of the horrors of nuclear, of like radiation mutations and shit like that, of radiation causing mutation in people, and how it makes monsters out of that which is normal. Because Tor Johnson comes in, he's a big dude, but he's just this normal kind of like, he's just this scientist guy, and then all of a sudden he's turned into this ravening monster. So legit, dude, throughout the after the bombs dropped, the late 40s, 50s, 60s, that was the kind of thing. Nuclear weapons were the big new threat. And thanks to all the shit going on, if you watched Oppenheimer, you're familiar with how that kind of rhetoric got out there, and the public, generally kind of ignorant of the grander scope of these things, were just terrified that the Russians or the commies could bomb us at any moment, and that we needed to be on alert because then you got the Red Scare, McCarthyism, shit like that. And this was Coleman's attempt. I watched watching without the riff tracks, watching without the MST3K commentary, you get a real sense that Coleman was really trying to say something important, but the man had no idea what to say, no idea how to say it. And when he was in there, he had no control over anything. Like, he did not know what to do. This is a guy who I interpreted, just by what I saw, as someone who thinks very, very linearly. He needs an A, B, C, D. I mean, not to knock him. The guy is a classic military man. Him and his friend who helped to do this, who was his name? Who produced this bad boy, which was Anthony Cardoza. Both of them were Army, were just regular Army. You know, they saw action in World War II, and you know, that's who they were. And then they came up, and then after they got out, they were tradesmen, they worked in the industry, they started doing their own thing. You see that a lot. You know, they were military, they got their pay, you know, they got out, they got their pensions, and then they went on to work as tradesmen, generally working in a field in the Hollywood industry that reflected their training when they were back in the military. And so they segued that into Hollywood careers and then moved on to make their own stuff, which is completely commendable. But that kind of artistic expression lends itself to a certain kind of mindset. And I don't think Coleman or Cardoza really were the kind of guys to do that. Now, if they had created the film, written the film, and had said, and then Cardoza produced it, and then they found another director to run with it, that would have been solid. But the problem was, at that time in the 60s, there was already a deluge of protest films, of protest horror films that were coming out. You know, like, you turn the corner, you know, like giant monster movies utilizing radiation to make things big. You got The Beginning of the End. You got Tarantula. You've got, I mean, that list goes on and on and on. So, underfunded, out of control, no vision or planning whatsoever, and a complete misuse of the talents that are involved. Not to mention shit that was kind of like shot later, like the whole opening sequence of the hands coming in, the girl, the naked chick that then gets strangled for no reason. Then it's suggested that she gets like, you know, like necrophilia is taking place, that he abuses her corpse. Shit like that is just thrown in just to be salacious. And to me, it has no bearing on the movie itself. It's just like, let's throw some visual shit in there that's going to make people go, ooh. You know, that just didn't play well. But with, you know, the fact that virtually all the dialogue is all from the omniscient creator, the omniscient narrator standpoint, is just beyond ridiculous. And I honestly think was just one of the worst uses of Tor Johnson ever. You know, Tor would have been fantastic in this. And it would have, if Coleman had known how to utilize him. Now, the areas that it shot, people are probably familiar with that. It was shot around Santa Clarita. All three of his movies were shot around Santa Clarita. I mean, you shoot the area that you love. He knows the area, so he knew how to shoot out there. But as far as like what was shot, how it was edited, the pacing of the film, the audio, lighting, choice, the choices that were made, I know that a lot of people like to laugh at this movie because they reference MST3K, but standing on its own, it actually makes me a little sad, because Coleman had firsthand experience of the war. He knew the horrors of that, and those obviously left an indelible print upon both him and Cardoza. He wanted to say something in the medium of film that made his position clear in regards to how he stood against these things, because he knew it. He experienced it. He lived it. So a guy in the trenches wants to talk about it is admirable, and to try and do it through film is even more so. The fact that he got it in the damn can, impressive to say the least. But I just wish he'd gotten a better opportunity, and I wish that he'd been open-minded enough to allow other people to assist him on this. You know? And otherwise, because I honestly think legitimately, I think that there was something there. There was a kernel of something creative there that unfortunately got lost in Cardoza's ego and his short-sightedness and his inability to kind of like to delegate, to allow other people to do the jobs that they're hired to do. That was my big kicker. I kept seeing it all over the place. You know, his fingerprints were way, there was way too much influence of him in that film, and the other two films as well, because they are fucking terrible. They're like Beast of Yucca Flats is damn near fucking watchable. The only reason I was able to like finish watch the film is because I love Tor Johnson. I love Tor. I love what he brought. Ed Wood knew how to use Tor Johnson to full effect. His movies are terrible, but they're fun terrible. You know, they're goofy, they're zany. You know, they don't take themselves so seriously. Ed Wood knew how to utilize Tor Johnson to full effect. Fucking Coleman did not. Coleman Francis did not know what to do there, and it makes me sad, because that was a time when we needed movies like this to convey the other side, so that people weren't so dominated by the media or so driven into fearful states by the media, by the threat of nuclear war every 5 minutes. We needed protest films. We needed people to say these things, and we needed better people to do it. And unfortunately, Coleman died before, he only got 3 films under his belt. He only directed 3 films. He cameoed in a lot of stuff and had a bunch of acting roles. He did, but he only got to direct 3 films. His trilogy, his protest film trilogy, and unfortunately, they're just terrible. The only, like I said, the only thing I could possibly salvage thing is recognizing the behind the scenes, recognizing who Coleman was as a person, his personal experiences, what he was trying to do, and what was going on in the world at the time in the post-World War II landscape. Obviously, this also post-Korea. So in the post-Korea landscape, Vietnam is heating up. And then what was going on with communism, McCarthyism, shit like that. And the overwhelming fear that was pervading every corner of America, the Red Scare and shit. That all tracks. The Beast of Yucca Flats, that tracks with everything that was going on. But man, was the ball dropped on that one. Shit. And so both infuriating and rather sad on this one. So I know a lot of people watch Beast of Yucca Flats and other stuff and Francis Coleman's other films, and they laugh. This one kind of depressed me, because I see what it was there, what he was trying to do. And man, it was like watching a monkey hump a doorknob, just depressing after the first 5 minutes, or a monkey fuck a football, whichever way. I was trying not to use that other R word, but nonetheless, it was kind of a bummer. Now, definitely if you're going to watch this one, definitely go watch the MST3K one, because the commentary at least salvages the film, but on its own, it is damn near unwatchable, which is such a fucking shame, because it was an important time in film and an important time for independent filmmakers. And it should have been better than it was, because we needed movies like this. But unfortunately, this wasn't one of them. There are a lot of other ones that are much, much better out there, but Coleman Francis wasn't the guy to deliver it. It just wasn't, which is a shame. But at least, it's there. People are aware of it, thanks to the boys over at MS23K, who were able to, the guys and gals over at MS23K and Riff Tracks, who kind of, brought it back to the foreground, Yeah, watching a monkey hump a doorknob. It's watching a monkey fuck a football, or watching the R word hump a doorknob. That's from Dodgeball. So, but I will ask this. Tor Johnson, absolute fucking legend. Former Swedish wrestler turned actor, Hollywood strongman. I'm kind of curious. For those familiar with his filmography, what was your favorite Tor Johnson performance? And the reason I want to ask about Tor is because Tor was extraordinarily talented. He really, really was. The sequence at the end of Beast of Yucca Flats, when the beast is finally shot down and he dies, and Tor's like, oh. And then the bunny comes in, or the rabbit comes in, and then he reaches over and and that was improv. The rabbit was not scripted to be in there. Apparently a wild jackrabbit made its way into the frame, and Tor just improv and reached out and petted it. Oh, the beast has humanity. And it dies. So Tor had great instincts. Strong actor. Lot of roles that he played. And I'm curious what you think. What you think is what is your favorite Tor Johnson performance? Best use of his abilities, best use of his imposing visage. You know, what's the one that really allowed him to do his best work? So let me know down in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com your favorite or what you think was the best Tor Johnson performance. And I got a lot of love for Plan 9, and I see the Unearthly as well. So there's a bunch out there. You know, the dude was awesome. He really, really was. So, but yeah, let me know down in the comments below at weekinhorror@gmail.com. All right, and that's our last one for tonight. I felt kind of bad shitting on Beast of Yucca Flats, getting so maudlin on the film, but it's both important and not important, you know. And maybe its lack of importance makes it important. I don't know, but I mean, we got to be honest about it without being tongue in cheek. At least have the serious discussion about what was going on behind the scenes. But that's the last one we have tonight. And of course, that means you know what time it is. It's that time. It's trivia time. Yes, it is trivia time. The favorite time, or I guess everybody's favorite time here at Week in Horror, where we close out the show with a trivia question for everybody. So if you are the first one with the correct answer to this question in the live chat, you get a special item, a mystery item from the Week in Horror store. If you want to look at all the cool stuff that we have available, check out the Teespring link down in the description, and you can see we have mugs and camping mugs and t-shirts and all kinds of shit, puzzles and stuff. All kinds of stuff are all available in our Teespring. Well, you're going to win a special item, a mystery item from the Week in Horror store if you are the first person to get this correct answer in the live chat. So let me make sure I've got this pulled up, and we will dive in there, and I will give you your trivia question for the night. And I'll make sure that that's down. Good. Oh, you have to see, I gotta make sure the audio is down. So here we go. Your trivia question for tonight is: who portrayed Tor Johnson in Tim Burton's film Ed Wood? Who portrayed Tor Johnson in Tim Burton's film Ed Wood? First person with the correct answer down in the description gets a special item from the Week in Horror store. So, waiting for the first correct answer. Who portrayed Tor Johnson in Tim Burton's film Ed Wood? Who was it? Did they guess? Angel Rivera is the first one up. Got it first in there. George the Animal Steel. Well done, Angel Rivera. And Omni Ouroboros was right behind Angel with George Steele. Absolutely. But yeah, George the Animal Steel was cast to portray Tor Johnson in Tim Burton's film Ed Wood with Johnny Depp and a number of other actors. But I see there's the George Steele's coming in. There we go. Casey Cooper says wrestler George the Animal Steel. Hell yes. Sir Kev says George Steele. Fuck yeah. Wrote no last name. George the Animal Steel. George the Animal Steel. He was a great dude. And well done in that movie. You know, George showed he had some chops. But congratulations, Angel Rivera. I'm going to write your name down. And we are going to get that printed and shipped to you ASAP. Well done. Congratulations on winning that one. Angel Rivera says, please pass the gift to Sir Little Wolf. Excellent. All right. So, congratulations, Sir Little Wolf. You have been gifted Angel Rivera's prize for tonight. Sir Little Wolf, gotcha. All right. And, Sir Little Wolf said, LOL, I said his name when Tor was going apeshit. Nice. So yes, Sir Little Wolf, make sure that we have your shipping details, your up-to-date shipping details. You can message them to me via Discord, or just send them to me at weekinhorror@gmail.com. Whichever one you prefer, just let me know, and we'll make sure that we have your updated info so we can print that out and ship it to you ASAP. Congratulations once again. And that, Horror Fiends, is going to conclude another episode of the Week in Horror podcast. And I probably need to do that a little bit better because I don't have the outro music queued up. There it is. I want to thank you all so much for joining us. We truly hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, smash that like and subscribe button. And be sure to hit that bell so that you never miss a future episode. Unless YouTube decides to screw us over. Fucking YouTube. Join us next week when we look back. And this is going to be amazing. We have an amazing episode scheduled next week. Join us when we look back at the Christopher Lee experimental Spanish vampire film, Cuauhtémoc Vampire, the pre-code Lugosi and Karloff classic, The Black Cat, and the legendary Hammer Films Horror of Dracula, and The Evil of Frankenstein. More Christopher Lee, more Peter Cushing. We have amazing films next week. Be sure to check out Josh Olsen's store at badsamurai.store. He does all the awesome artwork you see splattered all over our merchandise, which you can find over at Teespring. Link is in the description. And for more from Week in Horror, check out all the bloody links that are down in the description. Follow us on the socials for your daily splatter, your daily horror recommendation. Join our Discord for watch parties, big announcements, all kinds of horror shenanigans, and support the show through channel memberships here on YouTube, Super Chats, PayPal, or even through our Patreon. We keep plugging the Patreon because that's how we do this shit. For as little as $1 a month. $1. I know you can get that. So anyway, what are you waiting for? Fucking join us. As always, thank each and every single one of you, all of you, for being the greatest audience a horror film podcast could possibly have. All of our love. We will see. I've been your host, JL. We will see you all next week. And as always, stay scared.